Hey guys, welcome back to another video, and in today's video we're going to be talking about the Atlanta real estate market. Will it crash? It is currently in a cooling phase. Like many markets around the United States, people are responding to what's going on. So I'm going to put my opinion on it, my take, my spin, so all of my subscribers know where I stand and what recommendations that I want to give to you as a real estate broker here in Atlanta, Georgia. So let's get into it. Alright guys, if this is your first time here on the channel, my name is Raymond and I'm a real estate broker here in Atlanta, Georgia. I help individuals just like yourself looking to relocate into the Atlanta metropolitan area as well as the state of Georgia as a whole. My team and I stand ready to assist you in doing that. I also work with buyers and sellers here locally in Atlanta that are looking to relocate outside of the state, sell their property in Georgia to relocate to other states. So any purchase and sell needs you have here in Georgia, I am your guy. Feel free to reach out to me. All of my contact information will be in the description below. Additionally, you can go ahead and book a consultation with me directly using the link below. All right, guys, so let's get into this conversation about all that is going on in the real estate market. So much has happened over the last few days. I wanted to just take an opportunity to see how the market was going to respond to the Fed increasing the interest rate, the Fed rate rather, by 75 basis points. What does that mean for the average buyer and how that will influence your decisions? All right, so essentially when the Fed increases their rate, it in turn increases interest rates and other rates for all type of consumer loans, right? Mortgage, car financing, consumer, credit card debt loans, all kind of loans. That Fed funding rate will influence the rate that the actual lenders will issue to the consumer, as well as businesses that are taking out business loans and etc. All right, so essentially the real estate market, the actual home loans will move based on that decision. So what does it mean and what's going on here in Atlanta? So let me catch you up to speed with the Atlanta real estate market real quick, and then we'll talk about my predictions and my suggestion to my subscriber base. All right. Okay, so let's go ahead and talk about the Atlanta real estate market. What has happened year over year? What are some of the major changes over the last few days here in Atlanta? First big one is going to be a metric released by Realtor.com, and that's going to be on the housing competitiveness, meaning how many properties are receiving multiple offers. In Atlanta last June, we had a rate of about 71% of all properties received multiple offers for those homes. In this month of June, that number is down to 56%. So that is a 17% decrease from last year's level of competitiveness. All right, so that is directly tied to all that is changing with the interest rates, etc. So essentially, Atlanta is a little bit less of a competitive market as it was last year. So to me, that is a cooling. That is not a crash. That is not a bursting. That is a cooling. That is a direct reflect or effect of what has happened over the last few days and weeks and months, to put it candidly. Also, another big change is interest rates are currently, as of making this video, at about 6.5%. So, that is a significant jump. I mean, 6.5%. You may be able to find it cheaper, obviously, with prime credit scores. You probably can find something probably 5.7, 5.8, being very competitive depending on your score. But 6.4 as an average, 6.4, 6.5% interest rates are tremendously different from this time last year. This time last year, rates were still in the high threes. So significantly different playing field. So that is going to have an effect on how much demand stays into the market. Now, we'll talk about that in a second. Let's continue on with some of the metrics that have changed here in Atlanta over the last few days. All right, mortgage applications are down about 7% from last week and about 20% from last year, but they have rebounded. I'm seeing reports that mortgage applications are actually on the uptick from last week. So more people now this week are starting to do those mortgage applications. And I think that essentially what that means, in my opinion, is I think that there was a pause because there was such a big shift and a big rate change going into that 5.5%, 5.6% last month, and they brought it back down. I think that shift, or that big influx of decrease, was directly reflected to that, because there was so much uncertainty, right? People were like, well, I don't know where this rate is going to go. Is it going to continue to go up? Is it going to go back down? And I think this rate change that happened this Wednesday is significantly important, because it's showing people that the Fed is not pumping the brakes. They're not slowing down. They're not stopping, and rates are going to continue to go up. What does that mean? People are going to start to do more applications, because they are concerned that if they don't do it now, then it could be 7%, 7.5%. That is where we're going. It is going to get there. Rates are going up. By the end of this year, rates are probably going to be hovering about 6.8%, 7%. I mean, with another rate change next month, yeah, I mean, we'll already be low sevens, knocking at the door of 7 before, probably before August. So it's happening. And so I think that is a direct reflection of seeing that uptick in applications over the last 24 hours based on Wednesday's report. Last thing here in Atlanta, let's talk about the current supply. In Atlanta, current supply is 1.2 months as of today of me pulling the data to do this video. So inventory is significantly still down, okay? A balanced market is anywhere from 3 to 4 months on the market, or between 3 and 6 months, or 3 to 4 months. And then anything over 4 to 6 months is considered a buyer's market. So we are still in a seller's market, 100%. 100% seller's market. And so I know that so many people are caught up, and so much so, like, you're trying to, or some people are hoping so much that the things that they're saying aren't necessarily true indicators, traditional indicators that economists actually use to state if a housing crash is like here. We're not there yet. Will we get there? Nobody have a crystal ball. Nobody, if anybody tell you emphatically, undoubtedly, that there will not be a housing crash, they're lying to you, because nobody can see the future. Nobody can predict the future. Only thing we can do as individuals, as humans, I don't care how smart you are, I don't care what degree you hold, I don't care how much of a statistical analyst you are, how great you are with data and metrics, you cannot 100% ascertain or guarantee anything until you reach the future, okay? And so for me, I have never and will never be a definitive, a person to give you a definitive answer on will something happen or not. That is, that you can't necessarily guarantee. You can't see the future. That's the only way you can guarantee is if you can see the future. Okay, I'm rambling now. Let's keep moving. All right, so now let's talk about the uncertainty, right? So the things that I just talked about before were actual factual, they happened, you can see that they happened, etc. Now let's talk about some of the uncertainty, right? So the first uncertainty is, will the Fed continue to raise the rate? That is an uncertain question. Nobody really knows the answer. I think that you can actually be a little bit closer in predicting that answer. And to me, I would say yes. I would go on record to say yes, I believe that the Fed will continue to raise these rates. And they have to. Inflation is out of control. And unfortunately, they waited too late to do this. Like, these rates should have been increasing like mid-21, like, this time last year, or probably even maybe August, September last year. It should have been increasing in the slower months versus actually increasing when we are in the peak of the season, which is crazy to me, because this time right now is a natural influx of supply in real estate. Like, real estate, the Super Bowl for real estate is March until August. That is the Super Bowl of real estate. Many transactions are handled in that time, etc. So August, September, October, November, December would have been great in 21 to start incrementally raising these rates, but the Fed didn't do it. They didn't do it. So now they're trying to like rush and do it all in one freaking year, which makes no sense. So that is the level of uncertainty, is will they continue to raise the rate? My going on record in this video, yes, they will. It will continue to rise. The next level of uncertainty is, will the demand of the continued raising of the rates, will that demand shrink enough to allow supply to catch up with the demand that stays in the market? That is uncertainty. We don't know the answer to that. I would say though, just, having the conversation, I will hypothesize that I would say no. The raising of the Fed rate is not going to remove enough of the demand out of the market to catch the supply. Not in 2022. Now in 2023, mid 2023, we'll have a better gauge on will that allow or will that happen. But in the current year, I don't believe that the raising of the rates is going to be enough to remove that alone. It's going to be enough to remove enough demand, meaning consumers, people, home buyers, from the market in order to allow that supply to catch up and sit on the market longer because there's no one to buy them. I don't believe that. I believe that people are still going to continue to buy homes even in the interest rates that they are. Historically, rates are still lower, okay? Historically, I'm not saying year to date, year over year, right? Year over year, rates are crazy. They're double, right? But 6% interest rate is not, 6, even 7, even 8% interest rate is not unusual in the housing market. It is unusual over the last few years, but it is not unusual to the housing market in itself. So, if you ask your great aunt or your great uncle, they'll tell you, yeah, I've had interest rates at 7, 8%. Like, this is not anything new. It's new to us recently. Okay, so let's go ahead and transition the conversation to here's what we do know. Okay, so we went from this is what has happened, these are the uncertain things, and now let's talk about what we do know. What we do know is when the supply catches up to the demand, it reaches or exceeds the current demand, prices will fall naturally by the law of supply and demand. So one indicator of a housing market crash that anyone with no real estate education at all, never sold a house in their life, can come to the conclusion of, once you have too much than you need, then you stop really going to it because you don't really need it. Meaning, when we have enough homes to match the demand of the buyers, then those prices will naturally fall. That analogy sucked, but you get my point. When the supply catches the demand or exceeds it, then we are no longer in a seller's market. We are in a balanced market when it meets it, when it's like teetering back and forth, right? That's a good place to be because sellers are going to be more inclined to negotiate with buyers. Buyers are going to be more inclined to have favorable negotiations with sellers, more opportunity to buy homes, right? And it could go where supply exceeds the demand, which is then a buyer's market. That's when buyers have more control. You can go from this house to that house to that house and choose whichever one you want. And sellers are begging you to come and buy theirs, right? So what we do know is when that happens, that's when you want to be looking at a crash, because then the prices that you're seeing now will naturally start to fall. Sellers will be more negotiable. Sellers will not put their, inflation will no longer have its place. That's what we do know. And that's not happening right now. Supply and demand is not equivalent. It is not exceeding. Supply is not exceeding demand. All of the people that are saying the market is going to crash, and I'm going to get some people in the comments, you're just a real estate broker. You're trying to make people buy houses. No, I am not. You don't ever have to buy a house, and I'm going to be good. But what I'm telling you is factual. It is factual. It's proven. It's data. It's history. It's life. It's just the world. Until the supply reaches or exceed the demand, the prices will not fall. That's just my prediction. All right, finally put a wrap on this video. In order to determine what you should do right now, you watching this video, what you should do, it is directly tied to your level of strength and weaknesses. If you are a person that have the means, you have the credit, you have the income, you have disposable, I should say disposable, you have liquidity, you have money that you can actually ascertain or get to, okay, to make your goals successful, to allow you to buy the property that you want to buy. There's no other time like the present, okay? Rates will continue to rise. So if you continue to wait, you're probably going to pay more at the end of the year, okay? The Fed is showing us that they're not stopping. They're not stopping raising the rate. So what are you waiting on? Okay? That's one way to look at the market now. Now, if you don't have the money, meaning if you are a first-time home buyer, or even if you're not a first-time home buyer, you don't have the money, right? If you don't have the means to play in this market, then from chairman, the Fed, the chairman of the Fed himself, he said from his own mouth, if you are a first-time home buyer right now, your best level of advice is going to be to wait until there is a more balanced market. You know what that means? When there is more supply for you to have an opportunity to buy a house. That's what the chairman of the Fed stated from his own mouth. And I agree with him. If you are a first-time home buyer and you don't necessarily 100% have to buy a property, then yes, it may be in your best interest to wait until there's more of a supply so that you're not dealing with the level of competition. That does not mean that the prices are going to be cheaper. That just means that you're going to have an opportunity to be able to negotiate more favorably. Now, the prices will start to fall over time when that supply meets the demand, but it's still not going to be instant. It's not going to be like the next day, right? It will take time for sellers to get over the reluctancy of the reality that we're no longer in a seller's market and we're in a buyer's market. So that may take some time. All right. But that is what my recommendation is that as well. So again, what you have to do in this market is assess what your strengths and weaknesses are. So if you have the means, I would say buy now, because if you don't, rates are going to continue to go up. Okay. And one of the more positive signs now for you to buy now is the fact that the level of competition is decreasing, because some of these people are coming out. So some of that demand is removing itself from the market. But it's not enough to say that we're not in a seller's market. It's not enough to say that the market is going to crash tomorrow. Okay? So do that. All right? Ascertain, look at your own situation. Review your own situation. Go over it. Pros and cons. Break it down. Do I have the money? Can I be competitive? If that answer is no, you don't need to buy a house right now. You need to wait until you have a better opportunity to do it. But if you have the money, you have the means, buy your house and pay less today than you will tomorrow. That's just my 2 cents on it. Now, there's so many YouTubers. Everybody got their own spin, and that's what makes America great. Everybody can have their opinion. Everybody can have their view. You have to just try to do your best to make the best decision you can for yourself. I hope that answered the question as to where I stand when it comes to this current market, with the raising of the rates this last Wednesday, with the looming raising of the rates again next month. It's going to probably be again 75 basis points. My personal opinion is I think they should just raise it up a 1 point or 1.5. Raise it and get it over with. All right, that's Raymond though. That's Raymond, because if you don't, it's almost like a slow death, right? And I think the Fed, what they're trying to do is they're trying to respond. Really, they're hoping. Honestly, all signs point to the fact that they're hoping that inflation will start to come down. They're hoping more people will drop out and what you guys got to understand is too. And I got to put a wrap on this video. Yeah, I'm rambling now. Time is way too long. What you got to understand is that there are more factors in this market than just housing market. So you got all factors of the United States economy tied to the raising of the Fed rate. So a lot of people get caught up on, oh, they're raising the Fed rate, so it's interest rates for houses. No, it's so much more than that. Houses is, I mean, it's up there pretty big. I mean, the housing market is really the number, I think, one actually, economic factor in this country, automotive, and then financial services. And so there are so many different industries that are affected, essentially what I'm saying, by the raising of the Fed rate. And so it's not just looming towards homes. And literally, if you listen to the press conference, the last question, out of all the questions they asked, the last one was about houses. Everything else was just about the general economy and how that Fed rate is gonna, influence the market. And, inflation is the priority. Overall inflation, not housing market inflation. The chairman said, they asked him about the housing market. He said, well, I don't know. I don't know what to tell him. But what I do know to tell him is that if you're a first-time home buyer, you might want to wait until you have a better supply and demand balance. So there you go. That's my 2 cents. Thank you for watching. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button if you learned something. Check out the channel, over 70 videos talking about Atlanta, showing you different suburbs in the Atlanta metropolitan area, as well as giving you videos like this, telling you different real estate market updates, etc. So check out the channel, like, share, comment, subscribe. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you on the next one. Peace.